Gospel according to Matthew, the 2nd chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at his rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him, and calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him in Bethlehem of Judea, for it has been written by the prophet, "And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
I invite you to be seated. If we were in their place, would we have returned to King Herod to give him the information that he had asked of them? Or would we listen to the dream that God gave them to go by a different road? Can't know unless we've been there. But we would hope that we would listen to God, whether it's in voices aloud, whether it's in a voice in a dream, whether it's in other people. We would pray and hope that we would follow God's leading, just as those, our Bible calls them wise men. That's of great concern for scholars and probably no concern for us, whether they were astrologers or scholars or kings or what they were. They were people that came from a long distance to come and give God praise and glory and to worship the one who would be and is King. But today, from this story, we can't really know how to deal with this story for today unless we know the rest of the story of this early time in Jesus' life. Because the Bible is very scarce on Jesus' early life. And what we read just after this story that I just told of the wise men is that as they left to go by a different way, to go around King Herod, an angel came to Joseph in a vision and told him to take his tiny little family, his wife and his newborn baby, and to run. Not to dawdle, but to run to Egypt, hundreds of miles to the southwest. To run to Egypt, a place where all Israelites knew that they had been held captive as slaves for 450 years, and that's where Joseph and Mary and the baby Jesus were to run. And it's a good thing that the wise men gave them some gold so that they had supplies for the trip. did. They followed. They followed God's leading and they ran to Egypt. And they had to do that because King Herod was outraged that the wise men would not come back and tell him where this new king of the Jews was. And it was very clear by that point that he didn't want to know where the king of the Jews was so that he could go and bow down and worship this new king of the Jews. He knew about the Jewish Messiah that was to come. He knew all of the stories from the Old Testament. He knew that the Messiah was going to come and cast out the ruling powers, the oppressors of their day. And that was the last thing that he wanted, was a new king that was going to come and cast him out of power, or his family out of power. And so you know what he did? The next part of the story is that he sent soldiers to Bethlehem. And he had them kill all the little boys 2 years and under. Can you imagine the horror? Can you imagine the anguish of the mothers and fathers whose children were killed at the hand of Herod's army? We call it the slaughter of the innocents. So the story goes on from the slaughter of the innocents to Herod now dying, passing away, and Joseph getting another vision that it was safe to go back to Israel, safe to go back to the Holy Land, because that's where this King of the Jews belonged. That's where he needed to be to grow up and to be part of that community. So they headed for home. And on their way home to Bethlehem, they heard that Archelaus was now the ruler over that part of the land. And Archelaus was Herod's son, and they were afraid of Herod's son, Archelaus. So Joseph got another vision and said, don't go to Bethlehem, go to Nazareth. You'll be safe in Nazareth. You can live your life in Nazareth. You can train this young man to grow up to be who he will be. And so all of these different steps in this story fulfilled different prophecies. Did you listen to the psalm as we were going through the psalm? It talked about so many of the prophecies of what Jesus would be and what he would do and who he was. There were many prophecies that were fulfilled by Jesus in the rest of the story. Out of Egypt I have called my son. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentations, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. And then the last one, he will be called a Nazarene, somebody from Nazareth. So all of these prophecies are fulfilled by this rest of the story. So what do we do with this? We know that Jesus came, and Jesus was not what was expected. But what do we do with this story in this day and in this age? Herod was a monster. And as I went through different commentaries and different scholars this week, as I was looking at this passage and wondering, what do I preach in this story? What message does this story have for us? There were at least a couple of commentators who wanted this to be a very political sermon, to compare Herod to some current folks. And I'm not about to do that. Except for current folks I mean, the closest that we could compare Herod to would be Duterte in the Philippines, or Kim Jong-un in North Korea, or Assad in Syria, or Maduro in Venezuela. You know, those people that are seen to us to be complete narcissists, those who are corrupt, are in it for the glory and the money, and those that have almost unlimited power. Thank God we've got checks and balances that we do in this country, that we are so lucky to be born in and to be raised in and live in, that we don't have the concerns that a lot of those other places do. But I think one of the messages from this story is that even though we're not there and we're not oppressed by those folks, we should have concern for those people that are oppressed. I heard a story this week about China. You know, China, we think, has been open to Christianity for the last 50, 60 years. But now I heard a story this week about China closing in and closing down on Christianity again, for fear that this Christianity would change things. There was a story of a student in one of our seminaries who was there from China. And she was training to be a pastor. And she wanted to go back to China, but she told her professor that if she goes back to China and tries to start a church, she will surely be arrested. For it appears that in China it's okay to be a Christian, but it's not okay to preach about it, it's not okay to teach about it, and it's not okay to evangelize people to become Christian. So in our day and age, not all places have changed so much from the days of King Herod. So what does it have to do with us today? Again, the big picture is that we ought to have concern for those who are oppressed. And we ought to support those who are fleeing from oppression of Christianity. Our duty as Christians and Americans is to welcome those who are oppressed for religious reasons. What I do know about this story, I don't know a heck of a lot about politics, I'll admit that. But what I do know is that Jesus came into a very political system. That he came in a way that was different than what was expected. And he turned the world upside down because he wouldn't fit into the system. And he continues to come into our midst in very political situations. He continues to change things. If we let him, he will turn our world upside down and drive us to places that we can't even imagine. We are called. We are called to follow the calling of the Holy Spirit in our lives, to listen and to speak up for those who have no voice. And we are called to be a part of the larger Christian message that oppression is not to be tolerated anywhere or anytime. And to recall that Jesus continues to come down. Continues to come down because there's no way that we can go up to Jesus. There's no way that we can climb that ladder by doing more and more things. But Jesus comes down with a gift. down with the gift of grace and mercy and peace and kindness. He comes down to tell us the same thing that the prophet Micah told us. What does God require of us? But to love kindness, to seek justice, and to walk humbly with our God. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's stand if you're able, and we'll sing.